Okay, this is an OpenToonz quick tip about how to change things after the fact, you might say. So in this shot, what we have is initially we started with this, and so I'm just giving you the backdrop here. I'll try to keep this to about a minute. So I added a background. I added this background, which is a defocused, bokeh blurred image, and then I added this as a vector layer. And without getting too much into the details, I added a number of glows and effects and color corrections so that when we hit preview, it looks like she's in a somewhat darker room and there are moonbeams glowing in. Now, so tip number one here is if I want to see what this is really going to look like and I hit the loop button, you'll notice it's chugging away frame 3, frame 4. It's quite slow. However, if I hit Control R and let OpenToonz generate a separate preview as opposed to doing sort of the, if you want to call it the live preview, it's much faster. Okay, so now what is interesting about this, I'm thinking, okay, this actually looks pretty good. I'm reasonably satisfied with it. But I really am, now that I'm really seeing it full size, I'm seeing some of the flaws like here in the drawing. I'm thinking, you know, most people maybe wouldn't care, but I want to fix that, right? Okay, so I'm going to close this preview and I'm going to go to the first frame because there really is only one actual drawing in this level. And actually, before I show you what I'm about to show you, I'm also going to show you this little tip. After we did these moonbeams, we took initially it wasn't really rotated correctly, so we made an adjustment here. But then what I thought was really interesting was that by using the C key to adjust these vectors, okay, and I'll put this in preview mode so you can really see what I'm talking about, we could totally decide where to make these moonbeams hit so they actually look like they're coming in and hitting her, whereas previously they sort of were actually going off the screen, so it was just like an overlay kind of thing. So this gives it a little bit more let's say organic feeling. Feels like it's more in the scene. So anyway, that's sort of a side note, but so here's the problem is I want to do a little bit of cleanup. And so I hit my eraser tool, and you can see I've got a little sign here on the screen that says the current tool cannot be used on a mesh deformed level. So of course that would mean sad face. But there is a solution. The solution is edit the drawing. Since this only has, in most circumstances, if this was not deformed by the plastic tool, which is how we did the breathing. So when she breathes, that's the plastic tool doing that. You can see it here, how that works. So since we can't edit the image directly in the level, we can go back to the original drawing. And now this is another part of this tip that's very important. When you use the eraser, you can specify lines, areas, or both. And what I want to do is I only want to erase lines. I don't want to erase areas. So that way I can go ahead and erase away and it doesn't affect all the careful work I did doing fills. So this is another thing about OpenToonz that is sort of emerging as a real win, is the ability to fix it in post, if you will. Because no matter how hard you try to get it right upstream, there's always going to be something you find you need to change downstream. So it's just really nice to have the flexibility to do that if you need to, because you will always need to. If not because of mistakes, then because your director comes along and says, yeah, it looks great, but can you change this or that? That's actually what happened here. It's kind of interesting because going back to here, you know, I had this in here and I thought it was pretty genius, but the first thing she said when she saw it is, well, the angle's not, it looks wonderful, but the angle's not quite right. It was more like this, right? And plus, as I said, the beams were essentially extended off the screen, so it was just an overlay. Now, she didn't really comment about that, but as far as the angle goes, she definitely wanted more of a tilted up angle. And then it was actually after the fact that I decided, well, what if we added a fourth beam right here? You know, hit the C key, so that we have a little bit of something hitting the pillow. And then what I did was I just used the pump up tool to sort of make that bigger and then thinner back here, because I didn't really want a strong beam coming in there. I just really wanted the look of it hitting the pillow. So again, like I said, it's nice to be able to make those changes downstream, not have to necessarily get everything right on the first try. So anyway, that's the quick tip, and I'm sure I'll be back later, if not today, certainly tomorrow.